Hello, everyone, this morning. Thank you so much for joining our latest episode of the Filmworkz Classroom. So today we've got the usual suspects. We've got myself, John, we got Gustavo Mendez, our product manager, and we've got our man of the hour again, the Swedish hour, Björn Lantz, to show us off how DVO Velvet works today. So today we're going to be showing how to set up a project in Encoder and Phoenix using DVO Velvet to firstly remove extreme noise, grain, and compression artifacts, managing low light shots, which is something that's very impressive about the tool itself, and then utilizing other DVOs with Velvet to create that perfect base level for you to then start really making some incredible content. DVO Velvet is included in a variety of packs online, and you can check that out on our website today with Encoder Essentials, Phoenix Film, Phoenix Video, Phoenix Ultimate. So if you've got those packages already, you might be able to have a play around with it. And it's also available in a few upgrade packs, including DVO Film Pack and the DVO Video Pack. And if you ever want any help with sort of finding the right thing for you, give us a shout. But without further ado, I'll let Bjorn take over and show you how to use DVO Velvet.
All right, thank you, John. Let me see if I can get this going. And let's see here. And hey ho, let's go. Look at that.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
Here we go. So, setting up a project. Not going to go through that much. I set up a project, have some various resolution, etc., because I have some contests, and I did prep it. So we're going to look on Filmworkz Classroom 004. So I'm just going to open this one up. And as you see, I have a little timeline here. The first content here is some really nice footage shot in Thailand from the Dorian Weber collection. So we will have a little bit of lowlights and highlights. Then I'm going to show a little bit from a feature from 2006 called Exit, including acts like Mads Mikkelsen and Alexander Skarsgård, etc. So we'll have a little look at that. So, but let's just push it into this one and see what we got. So this first shot, if I just play it, we can see it's a nice scenery somewhere in Thailand, and you can see it has some nice water and everything. It's a little bit flickery, as you can see, and there's quite some noise in it. So just to make it more appealing, I'm just gonna add a flicker tool as an input effect. It's not really anything I will cover. I will just turn it on to make sure that we get rid of these nastiness. And then the moment of truth, we have our DVO Velvet. So I'm gonna find my Velvet. It's in the film, and you can also find in this case in the video section, as I'm running now a Phoenix version, not Nakoda as promised.
Apologies, I was forgetting you were going on holiday. Is this where you're going, Bjorn?
Yeah. So I'm gonna then just apply it, and as I do, you will kind of notice that that these grains just nicely moves away. Velvet as such is one of our in the range of grain management tools. So we have the DVO noise, we have grain GT, we have even one in line sync, and definitely we have the clarity, which is all good. But we figured something was missing, and that is if you have extreme noise. Doesn't have to be extreme, as you can see in this case, but something that not just manage the grain, but also can produce something that we call the velvet look. So it produces something that looks nice and undisturbed, and you can actually start using your shots as never before. But if you look on this shot, to start with this one, we can see here in the water, we have some rubble in it, and maybe I want to accent it a little bit more, so I want to bring in some more details and such a thing. So I can use the atomizer, which is sort of takes the original grains and splatters them into small pieces, so you get the nice texture. I can increase the contrast and lessen the velvet effect, so by softening it. And you can see now that you get a little bit more details here in these areas, like the underwater and such a thing. I can even, if I want to, I can push on. Sorry, I'm moving around. Some sharpening just to get a little bit tad extra. So I apply that one, and you get a nice punchy feature. And already looking now, it's starting to look good. Even though not on the coda, I'm still gonna just do a simple, simple balance up. I'm just gonna use the tool levels, turn on stretch RGB. So I'm just gonna stretch it, the different channels correctly, and just out. So now we have something that looks like a nice afternoon in Thailand. And playing it now, we have actually kind of nice looking image. But this is with Velvet. How would it look without it? So if I just turn it off and play the same sequence, you definitely notice that now you push the shot too far. You can't really work it like this. So using Velvet means that you actually can commit to the imagery you want without breaking your footage. So this was a nice afternoon. So let's advance a few hours and towards dusk, maybe. We call it dusk. We now have something where the film itself has to work slightly harder, and as we see, the grain are a bit more coarse and such. And we can also see, there are some people, some traffic running past, etc. So just add the velvet effect. I'm just gonna push it on, won't do anything with it. But as you see, immediately in a bit, we can see it takes out the noise and such. But you can also see in these high motion things that it actually doesn't do any ghosting or anything. Also, something that's very nice in the areas here up in the sky, etc. If I play it, it stays calm. There's nothing moving. So it does a tremendous job in taking care that it actually manages your grain, and you can push this really, really hard one. So I'm just gonna, for fun's sake, just add some sharpening on this shot as well to get a little bit more bounce. And as it's a dawn, it's still, you might want to work on it a little bit. So I'm just going to use a balance tool, maybe bring down that one and moving that one away, and increasing some gamma. It's very low level one. So, but you get something that looks kind of nice. And again, without Velvet, where would we be? So then we would have a shot that looks something like this. And as you see, well, this is also one thing. Grain would kill any kind of transmission and such. So MP4s, etc. So, but if enabling it and playing it now, you can see it's nice and smooth. And actually, you can see a little bit more of the image as well. So it really helps your day. even it's in dawn. So now let's reveal the dark secrets and move into the night. So this shot, we can see there's, we can guess there is some water here and some buildings in the background. There also, as you see, there's a boat running past. So there are a few things. So now we're gonna let the Velvet work a little bit as well. So I'm gonna find my Velvet tool and apply it, and that's nice and so on. So, but it's very, very little details, and it's very little bit contrast and stuff. So what I want to do with this one, and it's the nighttime, so I kind of like a little bit more this smooth velvety look. So I'm just gonna add more velvet to it. I'm gonna push up the contrast a bit so I can see a little bit more, and also the details. So it actually can try to figure out what's going on here. And if we now look, we can sort of see that there is a boat. Without velvet, it kind of disappears. So once I have this one, it starts to look better, but we can, let me see, then maybe do something, because if we look on this material, there is kind of very little variation in it. So what I can do to sort of punch this one up, I'm gonna use a brightness contrast. Well, rather, I'm gonna use the contrast. And in this case, if I just push the contrast up now, everything goes like this. But if I then instead, if I push this one about and change the pivot where the contrast is, I move it down to where it actually is, and I can sort of find an area where I get more details without breaking the picture. So so now I can actually see what's going on. And if you play it now, we can see that we have some kind of nice image. And again, doing this grade, etc., on it, not having velvet, you kind of notice that it's really hard to use because it's there are mostly grains. So so there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, to save these kind of footages, that being a film or a video camera, I mean, shooting with a video, I normally, like Blue Channel, just says good night for you. But this one will kind of deal with this kind of issues. Here's another thing. We talked about compression. And if you look on this one, it's actually the same shot, but it is a preview shot from reel, and so you can figure out what kind of shots you want to use. So it's slightly less in resolution. It's going to switch to 1440 1080, and if you look now on this shot, as it is, stepping through it is just right, is an MP4, and that is something that you occasionally get. So what can I do when the grain become these like harsh kind of things? Well, I thought I managed pretty good with the previous shot. So let's try what happens. So I'm just going to go to my events viewer and just bring it back whatever I have on the previous shots, and just recall that and see what happens. And if I was clever, I should have enabled Velvet as well, but let's do that. And we can see it takes care of these nasty MP4s that sort of tends to kill your footage anyway, otherwise. And you get this kind of nice look to it versus without it. It's kind of harsh. So that's a little bit what we can see about this one. I promised you some features, so let's move on a bit. So Filmtech is the one who's I think currently running a restoration or just managed to do it. So this is a 4K shot. So it's a 35mm neg scan. Doesn't really look like it. I was told it might actually be a 2K scan that's been formatted to 4K, but the footage, well, the media I have here is 4K anyway. Looking on it, we can see also here that it's kind of really noisy. And if I go 1:1, so we can see him, we can see that there ain't that much details or anything, but it's mostly noise. So what can we do? Yeah, we can do Velvet. So let's do that. And as I apply it, we kind of noticed that it takes out a little bit, but the grains are, hold on, play source.
Popular man.
Yeah, do I see anything? Hold on. So in this case, I'm moving too fast or too slow. So let me see that something happens. I see a spinning wheel at least. So yeah, so you can see it take out some, but you still have some harsh grain there. But then again, so I say this looks very soft, and it is soft. So we have something called resolution index, and resolution index at 1.0 means that your content actually has that high resolution. So that indicates that this should have like a full 4K resolution, but it hasn't. So let's switch down, and I just go to resolution index 0.5 instead and have a look. I'm even going to turn on the atomizer. So we now can see that now everything looks nice and smooth, and we can also see a tiny texture here because of the atomizer. If I then turn it off, we should see that it's in a bit. Oh, that you get still a bit roughness, but the atomizer builds you a nice texture, like providing some kind of nice texture thing. So looking on it now, the footage looks kind of nice, and you suddenly can use it. So in this case, I can start grading it. So and looking on it, it's you don't really have much information. So normally I would just use a balance or something, but I'm gonna move into brightness region. So you have one tool that works on low lights, mid lights, and highlights, but they're divided into sectors. Now the default one doesn't really work as good, so I can try to switch over to Sinion, which sort of fixes the shapes or these tools a little bit, but it's not the Sinion log, so I need to adjust this one. So we'll just then move the shadow regions where that one works. I'm just gonna move the center of the mid region and outspread. Let me move the highlights as well, so I can start using my color tools more one. And then of course I can now start pushing the darks down a bit, and maybe bring up gamma bits, so we get something bit more appealing perhaps. And now we have something that is kind of useful versus the original one, which is really one. But having said that, we can quickly see what our Velvet did on this one. So just doing this grade with this one, it would be hard to use this footage, but with this one, I can definitely start to use it a little bit more. Moving forward a little bit, we can see here that now is the same movie, but it has been adapted to the DCI format and stretched as it should be. And so we can we can see that there is something here. Hold on, maybe it's we take this shot instead. So in the middle of night, someone is climbing a very, very noisy night, ascending the stairs. So in this one, I can just do what I did on the previous shot. It has not as aggressive grain as this one, but I will just add a velvet, maybe try a resolution index of 0.7, and put on the atomizer, and we should have something that looks kind of better. And to get some more details, just I kind of like working with this contrast. So I'm just gonna move down my pivot around this area, push it up a bit, so I can get a little bit more nice stuff into it. So you can see that it's pretty nice. So, and without, of course, with this one, you have extremely high noise, which is not appealing to look at. But with the Velvet, you can deal with this really high amplitude grain and stuff. So wherever you want to go, you have possibility to deal with these kind of dark area shot nights or very high grain or noise, no matter what. And they're all available now with Velvet to finally do something with a shot you had to react before. I'm going to stop that and open up for questions instead.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Bjorn, for going through that. I mean, just looking at the use of DVO Velvet, it is like, ironically, night and day. It is amazing to see the difference in it. And actually, I feel like I should have called this lesson From Dusk Till Dawn. It feels like that might have been a more fitting title now. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, please chuck them in the comments. For me, I have a question, and this is from someone who isn't the most color grading expert or restoration. With DVO Velvet, is there a particular order you use it in, sort of organizing a shot, or is there sort of you put it in any order when you're doing something?
I mean, in terms for grading, I would say it ahead of grading, because that means that you can really push it, just as we saw that you do it. In theory, you can put it behind as well, as Velvet is powerful enough to deal with it, but generally I would use it ahead, because Velvet
create that consistent image, then, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you have any questions, Gus?
I'm good, man.
You know.
If there's anything specific of Bjorn shows up so much at this point, but. Well, Bjorn, how would you describe the difference between Velvet and clarity for a lot of people? Your range key, for example, I think that's an interesting thing to make the distinction, between all three at this point.
Yeah. Now, well, clarity is clarity, and Velvet is Velvet. So it's like how you finish it off. Clarity is all about getting all the details and such, but whereas Velvet is also trying to create a nice look to it as well, which is Clarity doing as well. But where they're kind of similar in the way how they can deal with noise, but Velvet can deal with higher noise levels, and also you can especially see with any kind of other grain tool out there, if you have this high grain thing and you have a sky or something in the background, you can see that it starts to move a little bit. So some are worse, but this one is has an algorithm to make sure that this doesn't happen. So you won't have noise patterns or anything within it.
And I think another distinction that we can make here, Björn, I mean, we normally recommend grain GT for interlaced footage clarity. We normally say, yeah, you need to use it on progressive footage. Can we use Velvet on interlaced content as well?
And no, it's still a progressive because I think that's today's production and everything. We're still aiming to be progressive. I mean, because today there's no one ever having a CRT unless you're in a museum. So in the end, you want to create content for that is progressive and nice looking for the viewer. So and also like high end like going UHD or something. You're not allowed to have interlaced footage anymore because it's.
So basically, in this case, I mean, we're always talking about using like DVO interlace as the beginning of the stack, then we can just jump into Velvet after, right? I mean, that would be the workflow.
Yes, you could do that. Are there any other tools on the market that kind of are similar to Velvet, or is Velvet kind of its new thing? Just wondering.
One of the reasons why we picked this one up is that we saw there was no tool available that could deal with high amplitude noise, and that's so it's a niche market. It's like when people have like night shots and like wildlife in Africa with no support light and stuff of hyenas running around. No matter what, I haven't seen another working solution to do that perfect. But with Velvet, you can actually deal with this non-existing light cameras as well.
Cool. Well, Daniel asks, who would be a typical user of this? So I'm imagining, in what case and situations would you use Velvet?
I mean, there will be a lot of people who wish they had it once over time, but I mean, especially when you want to put in something. You got some footage and that you really like to have, but for some reason you can't use it. It could be that it's a low light camera. It could be that you got this really nasty MP4 as we saw, or something, or compressed format that you occasionally get, and someone thinks it looked perfect on his cell phone once they recorded it, but once you want to blew it up into a 70-inch screen, it's unbearable. But dealing with the Velvet will figure a way out and deal with the situation.
I mean, I think alongside that, I was actually speaking to Will from Evolutions yesterday, who actually made me think, I mean, not for the first time, hopefully I'm not thought for the first time there, but he spoke about how Velvet is useful because they do a lot of natural history documentaries. And a lot of the time, there's a lot of unusable footage because, you know, you might suddenly see a bear jump out in front of you and quickly moving the camera in a dark shot, for instance, making it really hard. And actually, sometimes you won't be able to use that footage. But now with something like DVO Velvet, that previously unusable footage is now something that you can monetize, for instance. So I think that's another answer to your question there, Daniel, in a real case scenario sort of thing. But Brill, don't see any more questions coming through, unless you got anything more to add on to that, Gus?
I think good, man. I think we got a lot out of this one, and yeah, I mean, we have a lot of use cases. Of course, Velvet is included on the trials of the latest version. The SO 2023.1 is already out and includes a lot of fixes, and includes Velvet on it as well. And yeah, I mean, just do the free trial and just take a look at it, see if that works within your workflow.
Yeah, find your old footage that you really wanted to use it on and try it, and you'll be surprised.
Yes.
I mean, I think I'm surprised just looking at the stuff. So, yeah, as we've gone through, DVO Velvet allows you to instantly remove extreme noise, grain, and artifact compression artifacts, creating that silky smooth base for further image enhancement. And again, engineered by the dev team with low light shots in mind. DVO Velvet unlocks the potential of previously unusable footage. So again, I'd love to say thank you so much all for joining us this morning. Thank you, Bjorn, for being the man with the plan, and Gus for jumping in, especially when you're about to travel 7 hours across Brazil. But again, we have another episode later on this afternoon. And again, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you.
Thank you.